Hello everyone, my name is Paulo Alves, and in this video I'm going to start coding with you a new app that I'm involved in, but this time we are going to use React Native for the front end. In the future we are going to use Node.js for the back end, and we are going to use Firestore for the database. I'm going to show you here somewhere in the video the print screens of the app, and now I'm going to tell you what the app is about. It is basically a delivery app, but the idea of it is to be done in a more ecological way. Meaning we are gonna offer deliveries using bicycles in the beginning, and in the future we are gonna move also to electrical motorcycles or electrical cars and so on. So let's get to the code. We are here on the React Native website, and let's start with a little summary about what React Native is. So, React Native is a set of tools that are similar to JavaScript, HTML and CSS, and with these tools we can create graphical interfaces. I mean, all those things that we use in the app, like buttons, pages, menu bar, etc. React Native was built on top of React, but focused on the mobile world, and its idea is the same as we showed in the video about Ionic. But Ionic is built on top of Angular, meanwhile React Native is built on top of React. So now we know that the React Native is a framework for the front end, and with it we can create applications that run on several different platforms like Android and iOS. In other words, with React Native we can create the Android application that you can download on Google Play, and we can create also the iOS app that you can download in the Apple Store. And the cool thing about it is that you can do these two things using just one source code. I mean, one source code for multiple platforms. Okay, after the summary about the React Native idea, let's start installing it on our machines. In order to do this, we come here in the doc section, and inside of it we come in the environment setup, and then we can come to the setting up of the development environment. There are two ways to install React Native: the way using the Expo CLI and the way using the React Native CLI. The difference between them is that by using the Expo CLI you can start the development very quick. I would say it's more suitable for those who do not have much experience with mobile development, but you have to know that at some point still you are going to have to switch to the React Native CLI. So what I would recommend is to start a new project already going through all of this and using the React Native CLI, because you have to do this anyway in the future. And with the React Native CLI, you also have access to all the tools of the React Native world. Here are the instructions for you to perform this installation. You basically have to install the Node.js, the Java Development Kit, which is the JDK, and also the Android Studio. Just follow these instructions here and you'll not have many problems. So let's create our project with React Native. I'll open here my preferred IDE, which is the Visual Studio Code. IDE, for those who don't know, means Integrated Development Environment. It's like a program that facilitates the creation of other programs. I'm already in the folder here that I created to contain this project, and to create the project I have to go to the command line and type npx, which is a Node.js command, React Native init to initialize the project, and then I'm going to put the name of the project, which in this case is, for now, Delivery App. I could stop here and hit enter and I would have created my project, but it would be created using JavaScript. But actually I always prefer to work with TypeScript instead of JavaScript, because TypeScript is like a JavaScript with superpowers and such. So I would advise you to do the same. To create a project that's written with TypeScript, keep typing space ---- template React Native template TypeScript. I click enter and the project creation process starts. After a few seconds we can see that the process was completed, and we have here some instructions for running the Android project. First, I have to have some Android emulator running, so let's go to the Android Studio, and then I click here on this AVD Manager button. Here I can run my emulator by clicking on this play button here. If you don't have an Android emulator installed, you can come here in the Create Virtual Device, then you choose what device you want to create for the emulator. I will choose this one, for example. Click Next, then you have to select here the API level you want. In my case, I have installed the last one, which is the level 30, but if you want another one, you can simply download it by clicking on some of these buttons here. After that, you click on Next and then you click Finish. I am actually going to cancel it because I already have an emulator installed here. What I'm going to do now is to click here on the Start button. And alright, our emulator is running here. Now let's go back to the Visual Studio Code and follow these next instructions here. First, I have to enter the folder of my project. I'm inside of this delivery-app, but the name of my project is delivery app. I click enter and then I'm on the folder of my project. Now I can execute the npx react native run android command. And after a few seconds, what happened was that this node window was opened, the project was created here, installed on 2 devices, one being the emulator and the other being my cell phone, which is connected to the computer. Now the project is running here on my computer and on my cell phone. And great, we can see that the initial React Native project shows some information about the React Native. What we are going to do now is to talk about the structure that was created in that project. For that, we come here to the project, open it, and let's talk about the folders and files created. The first folder we have here is this tests. It contains a file called apptests.tsx. This folder here is dedicated to having the test code of our application. I prefer this test to be in the same folder where the code itself will be. In this file, we can see an example of how to perform unit tests using the TypeScript and React Native. But as my tests won't stay here, what I'm going to do is to simply delete that folder. And it's worth it reminding you that all the code that we develop in the future will be using the techniques of TDD, meaning test-driven development. Continuing, the next 2 folders are specific folders for each of the environments. We have the folder of the Android environment and we have the folder of the iOS environment. Each one of them contains the configuration of this environment, and this is also where our code will be turned into a real app that we will be able to download on the stores, both for Google Play and the Apple Store. But for now, we don't have to worry about the contents of those folders. Our next folder of interest is this Node modules. That folder contains all the libraries that are needed for our project to work. It's important to know that we will never change the things that are here inside of this folder. Then we will skip some files here that are now not that interesting for us, and we go to our next file of interest, that is this app.tsx. This is the file that contains the starting code of the project. That screen that appeared in our emulator, this screen here, it was started here in this file. You can see that it imports a few things of both React and React Native, some libraries, and here we have the code that is actually called to show the application within this function here for this app. The instructions that are here in this return code are the instructions to create that screen that we just saw, and down here we have the style of this page. This is kind of the CSS of this page. When we really start coding the app, we will not have this structure here, which is the CSS and the page code inside of the same file. I think this is bad practice, but we'll talk about it later. I'm going to do now a small change here in the application code, just so we can see this change being shown here in the emulator. I'm going to change this from step 1 to example. I'll save it, and we can see here in the emulator that the text has changed. I will do it to step 1 so we can see in the emulator that it changed to step 1. Alright, this was just some playing around so we could see the code in action. Let's jump now to our next file of interest, which is this package.json file. That file contains some information about the project. It also contains some scripts that we can use to run the project both on Android and on iOS, or to test the project. It has also a list of all the dependencies that the project needs, both the production dependencies and the development dependencies. The last file that we are going to check is this tsconfig.json file. It is a configuration file for using TypeScript in our project. For now, we don't need to pay much attention to this file because usually we will not modify it. Or if we do modify it, it will be like once in a lifetime. And that's it for today. Now we have everything set up to start developing this new application I'm working on using React Native. And you should know also that all the code that I'm writing here on these videos is gonna be on a public repository on GitHub, meaning you can take a look at them, put some comments and do whatever you want. The link of the repository is gonna be here on the description of the video in case I didn't forget to put it there. And I hope you liked the video. Hit the like button if you did, and also subscribe to the channel if you want to follow the construction of this app using React Native. And see you on the next video.